Hey film friends, I'm Nick Furman. This is Furman on Film. Welcome to the channel. Here's a prequel trying to lay the foundation for one of the greatest action films of all time. No pressure. We've got Anya Taylor-Joy's expressively wide eyes. Didn't you mention that in your review of The Menu last year? Get some new material. Chris Hemsworth sporting a prosthetic nose and a garrulousness unheard of anywhere else in the Mad Max universe. Just a whole lot of origin story, steel, and clashing chrome. So paint yourself white and join the war boys. You are awaited in Valhalla. This is George Miller's Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Look, there's a pretty simple starting place here. George Miller is one of the greatest visual stylists to ever pick up a camera. You know, anytime you have a sci-fi franchise featuring a hairband era guitarist called the Doof Warrior, which somehow still name checks Ben-Hur, A New Hope, and Lawrence of Arabia visually, well, you're doing something right. Miller is also one of the best storytellers to boot. This dude's worlds have always been slightly off-center and incredibly rich and mythic. For going on 45 years now, he has built this Australian wasteland world of nuclear fallout and the chaos of humanity on the brink, chasing natural resources like ammunition and gasoline. Furiosa is no different. The film's sun-soaked color palette has returned, and so have those retro future big rigs and costumes. All of it dialed up to 11, a mix of speed, violence, and chrome, littered philosophically with, you know, nihilism at the end of the world and some laughs at the absurdity of this existence. Which leads me to the second Miller quality that we have to shout out. Not just the world building, but a penchant for filming action rivaled only by the likes of Spielberg, Cameron, and McTiernan? You know, I'm nowhere near the first to say it, but the Mad Max films are essentially incredibly noisy silent films. This entire concept came from the mouth of the director himself. Miller claimed he was inspired by the silent film era and tried to create pure cinema. He believed if you captured the right shots and sequencing, you could tell a story wordlessly. Images as dialogue. The Mad Max series has always been this, very sparse screenplays. Though we see this rule broken this time around. Killer action movies that have these little human flourishes. Asking questions like what makes us human and how do we find hope in this post-apocalyptic nuclear fallout? Who's the hero in these flicks? See, that's the myth making. But Furiosa does have its own unique spin. For starters, it goes back to being more of a straight revenge movie like the original film. You'll probably also hear people tell you that there is much more world building this time around, even if it is at the expense of some breakneck action. Oh, we're gonna unpack this. I can do it like close, so it looks. Okay. Oh, we're gonna unpack this. Furiosa is the story of paradise lost. It's like Eve and the apple. A removal from the green place and a quest to regain what was taken away that leads us right into Furyroad. I think you can make a decent case that there is more emotional heft in this prequel. Miller is at least attempting to get at the core of this Furiosa character. What makes her tick, and why in the world would she risk all to get these brave breeders out of the Citadel in the last film? But honestly, even though this pales in comparison to the sheer spectacle from the movie that preceded it, Miller's craft is almost always on full display here. So it's no real surprise that my favorite moments are ones like the battle at Bullet Town, where Furiosa is sniping at Dementis and his minions from a distance. Or these new airborne dive-bombing raiders who try to take down a massive oil tanker from every which way. There's just majesty to the way this man shoots chase scenes on an open desert road. This leads me to my final thing, the dude driving that rig. Our newest favorite Latin-named character, Praetorian Jack. Tom Burke is pretty stellar in this role, and so is Charlie Fraser as Furiosa's mother. There are a host of supporting cast members who do really solid work. Okay, so look, I've got a lot to say here. So much so that it may feel to you like I don't think this is a very good film. But it is. This is a perfectly solid prequel that you should see on the big screen. The trouble is, from an action and design perspective, this is just Furyroad light. See, when that film dropped in our laps in 2015, it had been 30 years since we last left Gibson, Tina Turner, and the Master Blaster, and that crazy middle hour. He's got word stuff from his ass to his mouth. What? The technology had just leapt forward by light years, and the film was so kinetic with its basic out and back plot that we were all left breathless. And now several of the set pieces just aren't as good because they recall better sequences from the previous film. Which leads me to the new thing. That's Hemsworth. He is the novelty in Furiosa, a villain, the muscle, who actually talks. Hemsworth has rarely been the big bad, and he's just chewing scenery in this one. Where Lord Humongous and Immortan Joe were mostly gruff, silent types hiding behind deformities and masks, you know, men who inspired fear due to their otherness and their strong presence. Compared to them, Hemsworth is downright loquacious. I mean, he's completely inept at accomplishing much more than being a chaos agent, but he's going for it full tilt in this film. See, here's the issue with that. He completely steals the movie right out from under the titular character's nose. People have been talking all about the greater depth of this movie, the emotional stakes. We learn so much more about Furiosa and witness the evolution of her character. But do we? What's her arc? She starts off as a young, quiet BA girl. She ends up as a still quiet BA woman. She left the green place and wants to go back. She's hardened by this world. She's missing one of her arms. Oh wait, we already knew all of this stuff from Furyroad! I'm not saying the story is poorly told. It's actually quite lovely. My point is the character who gets all of the development and major moments is Dementis. I actually have a little theory on why this is too. See, a good portion of Furiosa was already written before they even began filming Furyroad. I think the kicker for that is the heroine we get in this movie was already kind of fleshed out earlier. Charlize is bearing the weight of these past events in terms of storyboarding. So what can we really learn new about her? Finally, just a minor nitpick. I either wanted this film to be longer or much shorter. Like this review. If we're truly going into epic past world-building prequeldom, then give as much screen time to Anya as Dementis. Go into her history of becoming a war boy and rising through the ranks. Don't just tell us there's a 40-day siege between two armies. Show us the battles. Let's do 3 hours in this place if we really want to make it world building over battle heavy. On the other hand, if we're keeping things slim like the other Mad Max flicks, then let's get this baby well under 2.5 hours. As it is, I felt like I ended up with a movie that was too long and yet still missing stuff. Oh, and one last thing. Is Scrotus, not one of the worst vestigial characters in the history of this franchise? He's got a point. So, what do we conclude? Furiosa contains all of George Miller's signature visual storytelling and rich world building. It also adds more emotional heft by exploring the character's backstory and motivations. Yet, despite its strengths, the film features set pieces that recall but don't surpass the propulsive brilliance of its predecessor. While we gain insight into Furiosa's past, her character arc feels static compared to the more dynamic Dementis. Ultimately, Furiosa is a very solid prequel that demands a big screen viewing, but it leaves one longing for either a richer exploration into its world or a tighter, more focused narrative. Well, there you have it. The only thing left to discuss is our rating for this picture. FOF gives Furiosa a Mad Max Saga 4 out of 5 stars. If you enjoyed this review, please let us know by giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Also, don't forget to visit FurmanOnFilm.com for even more movie content. Thanks for watching. I'm Nick Furman. This is Furman on Film. Stay firm, my friends.